guys, welcome back to Sheepdog Mindset. This will be episode number 2. I'm Nick.
I'm David.
And today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the security in general when it comes to churches. That's going to be kind of our episode today. We opened up with a little bit of a beginner on what our goals, our mindsets, who we are, kind of a little bit of a background. Now we want to get into a little bit about church security in general, not necessarily something with the training aspect, but just about the structure behind security. Maybe a little bit of differences also with security versus safety team. Right.
So we'll talk a little bit about, we're specifically a Texas-based companies. However, we want to talk to everybody. So a lot of things that we'll say, we'll kind of specify when we're talking about Texas rules versus you might need to look at the legalities in whatever state you happen to be in. But we want to talk about where does it really start. So we'll talk kind of broadly about that. And I think we would both agree that security, safety, whatever it is, should start outside. For those of you that are in the Texas area, we'll be referencing some of the things that have happened here. But nationally speaking, 77% of these mass events, these violent encounters, have either started or occurred entirely outside, which is a good thing. If you got to have a shooting, if you just have to, why not have it outside? Don't bring it inside where there's a lot of people that can be injured. So we want to have that outside if we can. But I would have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of people are listening to this don't even have teams ready to go outside. We don't want to, if we have somebody volunteering, whether it be safety or security, we'll talk more to that in a minute, but whether it's safety or security, your first person to have contact with them, a lot of times they don't do anything. Reality bias kicks in and they just let them walk in. We had an incident like that here in the west side of Fort Worth at one of the churches here. A gentleman entered the church wearing a wig, had a trench coat on with a shotgun, and was able to go in and cause minor disturbances in that church until he finally decided to pull that shotgun out, shot and killed 2 people and almost shot the third. And I'm very familiar with that shooting. We were actually, Nick responded to it. We were right down the street. The thing that I hear most from them is they just didn't want to offend. And we spoke before about this is our house. It's okay to offend in the sake of safety. So we're going to talk about your first line of defense really should be outside that building.
Yeah, a little bit about the differences in security as what Sheepdog Defense Group provides. With licensing through the state, through insurance, liability insurance. So it takes a little bit of the liability off of the church, takes a lot of the liability off of the church, but then also couple that with actual training and how to do or how to mitigate, if not de-escalate, some of these situations, and especially on how to identify them. Starting stuff from the outside. I mean, having a parking lot detail or greeters, whether it's a safety team or a security, the difference in the safety team is you basically your eyes, right? You're kind of just letting people know if you can. We'll talk more in depth about communication and tools and communication later on in another episode, but having communication, be able just to at least put it out there so that if you do have an off-duty police officer there, or if you have somebody that can draw can come out and actually interact with that questionable subject or whatever the case may be before it enters into a church, which is in reference to, and it's the world we live in, a target-rich environment when it comes to somebody wanting to do evil and harm.
So one of the things that you want to look for outside would be something called cognitive dissonance, and that is the brain. So the person who's coming to do something, whether or not unless they're an absolute sociopath, they're going to have scruples about what they're doing. And in almost every case that we've seen, if you look back to the parking lot video, you'll see them park in an odd way. They won't pull into the parking spot all the way. They'll park diagonal or crooked. They'll park in a spot that's not even really a parking spot at all. That's something that we just kind of overlook. We've even seen videos up in some of the Colorado shootings where the guy will get out, sling a long gun, and start walking towards the church, and people will literally hold the door open. Like, that's just normal business. We don't want to do that. We want to the see something, say something thing. That is the concept of a safety team, and we definitely want people to report things to us. The difference between the safety and security, specifically in Texas, has to do with legalities. Safety teams have a duty to retreat. They are not to engage. We do have license to carry in Texas. License to carry is a happenstance license. It's your ability to defend yourself and your immediate loved ones when faced with a threat. To go and look for a problem is doing the work of a security officer or police officer. And in the state of Texas, that's something you have to carry a commission for either. So Sheepdog is a commissioning group. We're turnkey. We actually do commission officers. So both of us are trainers for the Department of Public Safety with the state of Texas, specifically Private Securities Bureau. And we get them pocket cards. They're going to carry level 2, level 3, level 4 pocket cards to be actual professional security. They just do it on a volunteer basis. You can contact us if you're interested in that. We are throughout the state of Texas, and we do have churches throughout the state of Texas, mostly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Probably 80% of it's here in our home base of Dallas-Fort Worth. The training is the other thing that really, really needs to stand out. Going out and talking to a group of guys and saying, hey, let's form up a team. Let's go. I know a guy who's got some acres. Let's go practice shooting once a month. That's great. That's something. But I like to say that the only thing more dangerous than a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun and a lack of good training. Because those of you that are in Texas, you know that when somebody comes in, stands up and says something stupid or stands up and shoots somebody, and the 30 people in there with a license to carry who shot pretty good one day in their life 8 years ago, they all stand up and start slinging lead, a lot of people are going to get shot. Not necessarily just the bad guy. A lot of people are going to get shot. So we have to be able to mitigate that problem, and we do that through standards of training. And we'll talk more in depth about the standards of training in other episodes as well.
Right. So, and that again, getting back to, the difference in security versus safety teams, all that other stuff. We'll get more in depth and dive a lot deeper into that. But as far as being alert or having some way of communicating with others that there's a problem, it starts outside. That we want to stop it before it gets inside. So having some way of identifying, or somebody that has an idea of how to identify certain things that just aren't right. That we always talk about. If it doesn't look right and it doesn't feel right, maybe something's not right. If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, maybe it's a duck, right? So we still want to be able to investigate. And if it's not, it's not, right? And we're not overzealous. We're not going to be overbearing. We're not trying to be big tough guys out here. We are simply trying to stop something from happening inside the church or therefore any other time. And if we can do that from the outside, it's more likely we're going to have a lot more people to be able to survive that incident if it becomes deadly.
Right. We've seen a lot of people who are resistant to confrontation in the church because free coffee and donuts doesn't bring them in. If you talk to younger families, which in growing a church, and I've been in the church my whole life, and growing a church, it starts with your kids. The kids are what grows a church. Younger families with kids. The problem that we see in society today, a lot of people are staying home to worship, and there is scriptural value to coming together as a congregation and worshiping together. And that's what we want to do. We want to bring people back into the church facilities to worship together as a big family. The younger families, though, they're worried about this because of what they're seeing in the headlines, the news. So we're losing attendance in that 20 to 30 demographic with the kids that will really explode at church, and that's what we're looking for. It's okay to be confrontational, but not over the top. That is to address somebody and just be straight with them. We don't have to beat around the bush with stuff. Just be straight with them. We've had incidents where we've had homeless guys that have come in, and do we bring the homeless into our church? Absolutely. Not a problem at all. If they're doing something that causes people to not pay attention to the word that's being spoken, they're not being fed, then we should address that. And we have, and the way it's been received would be surprising to you. It's a lot of these families have told us, I really feel a lot better knowing that you're there, that you're watching the back door so that I can come in, and that my kids are in a lockdown facility and they're safe over there, and nobody's going to get to my kids. So I know you guys have got this covered. That's really, really important. So
and having that security, or that comfort of the security allows, I think, and then that again, that our mission, our purpose, in what we do and why we do it. With Sheepdog and with my company, Sheepdog Pack, it's to help people become more confident in coming to listen to the Word of God, to listen and follow Jesus the way it's meant to, without all these distractions. And that's really what they are, is distractions. It's evil coming in, knowing that we are trying to minister, knowing that we are trying to follow Jesus. It's the devil coming in and trying to disrupt that, and make it more difficult, make it more fearful, to the point that you change your mind about going to church. And that's not what we want. We want you to feel safe in church. We want your kids to feel safe in that environment more than anything. And especially those churches that have schools attached to them, which we're seeing more and more of, just because of the way the school systems are, even in the United States, let alone, Texas. I mean, it's becoming more prevalent that some of these church entities are having branches of some sort of schooling. So then now you have people there 24/7 going to school. So in order for us to secure a facility, the outside is the absolutely create that first line of defense, that first barrier, right? So what does that look like? How does an outside team, or how does an outside person, or greeter, or whatever you want to call it, right? We have in our company, we'll have a security guy that's actually posted outside. He's a roamer. He basically just goes up and down around, either on a golf cart or on foot. We have guys that have cars with little lights on them and stuff. Just anything that can be considered as a deterrent, so that if someone's passing by your facility, it does not look like an easy target. Because this is what evil does. This is what the wolf does. He preys on the innocent and on the weak. And if he sees that it's an opportunity, because of it looks weak, or it looks like a soft target and nobody's going to fight back, that's what they prey on. So if we can at least give the perception, or at least give the power to that church to have those lines of defense on the outside, it's less likely that, or I should say more likely, that the wolf is just going to pass right on by and go to the next.
It's unfortunate that this is even a topic that we talk about, but it is. It's not something that our pastors study in seminary, but it has become a hot topic, and it's something that we're probably even going to see in the next presidential election. We're probably going to see this come up. We do want to, we treat it like we would with a military operation or police operation, which is concentric circles of protection. And that outside is that first level of protection, and that's where we want to keep the wolf at bay. It's not always going to work. He's going to get in. Sometimes the wolf is going to come from within. It's going to be somebody, a lot of times, who is associated with the church in some way. Now, sometimes it's absolutely random, but sometimes it is somebody from within. So they're going to have that clearance to get into that middle or inner ring of protection. So we need to be ready at all levels, but we want to try to harden it up, like Nick said, to prevent them from even trying it at our church. Now, I hate to kick the can down the road to the next church, but we can't clean up everything at the same time. We need to start somewhere. You start with your own church. And this is another Texas statistic, so some of you are not from Texas, I can't hold true, and this is on the date that we're putting this out. Armed professional presence, whether it be police or security, in the state of Texas has never had a mass shooting. That's not just uniformed, but armed and trained has been a deterrent in Texas to stop shootings. And we're proud of that stat. We'd like to keep that. We would also like to harden up other facilities. The church, term sanctuary, means a safe place. It needs to be a safe place again. The wolf has turned sanctuary into a killing floor, and we can't have that because we need people in our churches.
Yeah, 100%. So, having that outer circle, that outer defense circle or defense line around your facility, whether it be visual or physical, right? Having some way. I've seen some churches, they put up these camera systems, right? Or they're little cameras with the lights on them. You've seen them everywhere with little red and blue lights or something, or a tower that, based on what's going on. But they only do it for special events or whatever, because they're renting these things, or something like that, or having hiring off-duty police officers, or hiring a security team to come in. A lot of times what happens is people, they do this for special occasions, but they don't look at the all around. They don't look at the day-to-day operations, especially those churches that have schools, right? So I think, like, for us, having that ability as a security company, to where we actually train and license the volunteers from churches. We're not, they're already people at the church who have the passion and the culpability to protect the flock.
Right.
Now you have them there 24/7. So now starting from, you know, picking up kids if it's a school thing, and you have an armed security guard, you know, that's part of your church, that's there in uniform, in you know, have with a gun belt on, with security and a badge, that's standing out during pickup or drop off for school, you know,
Right.
or having them stand out there greeting people as we come in for church. You know, that deterrent from the outside, again, the wolf's going to see that, and he's like, he doesn't want to fight. He wants an easy target. He wants a soft target. He's going to move on by. And again, yes, I absolutely empathize with not, you know, wanting to kick the can down the road to the next church, but we got to start somewhere. We got to have a line in the sand somewhere. And if your church is one of those facilities, you need to start there and then pass the word on to other churches. Or,
Right.
you know, exactly what we're doing here is we want more people to understand some of this stuff so that they can start taking the proper steps in order to do that. The outside having communication, being able to, you know, hey, there's this car who's been circling around the parking lot for, you know, for the last 20 minutes, just going around, going around, going around. It's just like it's one adult, you know, adult age fighting male, or whatever your case may be. Using military terms, sorry, but using an adult, you know, white male just by himself, just circling around. I mean, is it unusual? Is it odd? Yeah, maybe a little. Do you know him? Do you not know him? It's your church, right? And maybe he's just picking somebody up, or maybe he's circling around looking for a victim, or maybe he's looking for an opportunity. We don't know. But the
Right.
fact that you have eyes on that and can communicate that
Right.
to the inside, and now you are having a little bit more of what we call preparedness.
Yeah.
That awareness to be prepared in case that happens. We don't be over, like, again, we don't want to be overbearing, you know, hey, stop right there, what are you doing, you know, and get out of your car, all that stuff. No, but we at least are aware of it, we have eyes on it, and we can address it if it becomes even further, i.e., what we were talking about
Right.
in the West Freeway, where the guy walks into the church. And we talked to people that were in those incidents.
Yeah.
They saw him. They saw him. They knew it was kind of weird, but yet nobody thought to confront.
Right.
Nobody thought to, hey man, how's your day going? Are you new here? You know, how are you? What's your name? All this other stuff to get that we have eyes on you.
Yeah.
We see you.
Reality bias comes in. Satan comes in and uses reality bias to make us unprepared. We mentioned before, they constantly say, "Well, I didn't think it could happen here. I didn't want to confront." And it's just the chances are. Well, I don't want to play the chances. I want to play the chances to my side. The volunteer thing that we have, having somebody out there in a uniform greeting it when you're picking up your kids and stuff. It can be an external thing. It can be somebody who we just kick the can down the road. But if it's internal, it's even more powerful with us because we're using volunteers. And I'm telling you, the volunteers are family members. They're talking to parents out there. Is there anything on the planet that would stop you from laying down your life for your kids? The answer should be no. The people who we guard, the people who we're watching over, are our friends, our family. They're our church family. There's not a thing we could do that would ever stop me from kicking down a wall on fire to get in there to save those people, because there's no paycheck in this for me. This is me fighting for love. We talk about the opposite of fear being bravery. It's not bravery, it's love. We do what we do because we love what's behind us, not because, or we love what's behind us, not because we hate what's in front of us. So we really strive to push that ideology of we do what we do because we love people. We train and we decide to, instead of sit on the couch and watch the game, we're going to get up and we're going to go do some practicing. We're going to tabletop. We're going to come sit down and do a podcast to talk to strangers because we want you to be prepared for the day that violence comes, because it is coming. Nick mentioned in the intro video in episode 1 that if you watch the country, things are getting worse. Now, I didn't serve a day in the military. I'm glad somebody did for me. But I do know enough to know that things are about to get a lot worse. And I think most of you that would tune into a podcast like this understand why. We don't know what the next year is going to look like. We don't know what the next month is going to look like. But I do know, and I can stake this on, that my instincts tell me, and this isn't a gift from God, that things are about to get much worse. And we have to take our head out of the sand to be ready for that day, because that day is coming. And I do feel pulled, and me running into Nick, I didn't know him through the police department. I met Nick through this program. My old partner introduced me, and it was just immediately a connection. It was immediately a fit because we have the same heart, we have the same desires, we have the same desire to serve others and to teach others, and that was a gift that God put on both of us that we are using, and I ask that you use your gifts as well. The preparation side of this is crucial, and I know a lot of people that tune into this don't know how to prepare, and that's why I started Sheepdog. Went to a seminar with Jimmy Meeks, listened to the man preach for 2 days, listened to survivors of shootings in the local area, talk about how they were trying to rebuild, and I walked out of there thinking, there's 300 people here that now understand the problem, and I'm one of the only ones here that has a solution. I know what the solution is. How do I tell them the solution? And that's where we were born, was from that there. So
Yeah, telling a solution, and even, we, I know we're kind of getting off in the weeds a little bit, and we'll get back to certain things, but I just want to say one thing when it comes to that. What was drawn for us to come and do this is we had a lot of pushback at first from the law enforcement community, from others saying, why are you teaching civilians this? You shouldn't be teaching them tactics and police tactics and this, that, and the other. Well, we don't believe that. We absolutely believe that these are skills and the training and all that stuff that needs to be pushed out further than just law enforcement. It needs to be pushed out to the civilian world. Like I told you, like in the first episode, what I said, I mean it wholeheartedly. We should be teaching the people how to defend themselves. They're the ones that are going to be in those incidents, because we know in law enforcement or anything else, we are reactive. We're going to get there after it happens or after it's over, or very few percentage of while it's going on. But in order to mitigate or reduce the amount of injured or killed, you have to train those that are going to be in those incidents. So
right.
again, starting with churches, getting from the outside and working our way in, having a plan on the outside. So let's talk about real quick a couple of steps that we can do, or that we can tell others that they could take towards securing their outside.
Okay.
Let's talk first, having somebody, as far as just having eyes and a way to communicate what they see, and then if they see something, what would be the next step?
Definitely notifying the right people and not being afraid to make that 911 call. I mean, that's a free phone call. And I use this when we talk about lost children, which again is an outer perimeter issue. We want to lock that down. But if we lose a kid, a lot of times it's because we failed to call 911 at an appropriate time. In the matter of 60 to 120 seconds, a kid can be down the street and on a highway, or we can go ahead and launch that call, get the helicopter up, get the officers en route, start locking. They call it a code atom in a lot of places. It's okay to go ahead and make the notification, and then if it turns out that the kid was just hiding or in the bathroom or whatever, we get a good laugh from it, and we got to practice our response. We got a live training. It's okay to make those notifications. Again, reality bias is going to kick in. A lot of people don't want to make that phone call because they don't want to be embarrassed because they were wrong. I would much rather be embarrassed that you're wrong than be embarrassed that you were right. I would much rather go ahead and launch those resources.
Yeah.
The other thing is we have got to start locking doors. The points of ingress and egress at these churches, I get it. We see a lot of, especially people who've been going to the same church for 35 years, and they've always parked in the same spot and at the same pecan tree and walked in the same door. And all of a sudden, this new policy comes out, and that door's locked, and I got to walk 30 feet around the corner into the sunlight. I understand that that's going to offend a few people, but especially when the service starts, let's obviously pay attention to fire codes, use breaker bars on your doors, but we got to start locking the ingress points. You can do a lot of damage by just making it hard for them to get inside and keeping them on the outer perimeters.
Yeah. The locking of the doors is huge. I know there were churches we've been involved with for many years that they had a lot of unknown faults that they had, or unknown or insecurities when it comes to how to secure their facility. Meaning they didn't know what they didn't know. And that door is because we have people that take the trash out all the time,
right.
or we leave that door propped open. Golly, man, as many doors that we have propped open in churches. Oh, well, because it's locked, but, we need to get in and out. And, we understand that. But what exactly are you doing? Like, what are you giving that alleyway for? Are you going 2 seconds to throw a trash out and then closing the door? You just don't want it to lock on you, or you just don't want to walk 20 steps around to the main entrance where someone can let you in. All these other doors, we should know that anything that's not a main entrance should absolutely be locked 24/7.
We see that in schools a lot. We see it in churches with schools a lot. And I think the reason that I hear the most is disruptions. I have a kid that needs to get up and run to the bathroom. If I lock the door, they have to knock and disrupt my teaching time. So what they'll do is they'll prop it, or they'll put a magnet where the lock doesn't actually latch. That was the problem in Uvalde. One of the biggest catastrophes, especially in Texas police work, that I can think of, and it was two failed door problems. It was an exterior door and an interior door. Now there is a law that says that the schools have to have exterior and interior doors locked, which, thank God, finally we got to that point. But I can tell you, just from I know a lot of teachers, a lot of them are going to ignore that law, and they're going to start propping these doors open. And it takes an event like having 88 minutes of kids being massacred in a school for us to open our eyes for a year, and then we forget about it.
And then we
And then we go back to the old processes.
Yeah.
The policies need to be there. They need to be followed. The door locking is crucial. And I hear the argument, yes, they can breach the door. They could kick the door. They could kill somebody and get a key. Yes, obviously there are going to be some issues with locking doors. But what that does for us is it buys us crucial seconds. Somebody to breach a door, we're both breachers. To breach a door, it's not done silently. It's a loud process. It does take time. And it does slow them down. And if I needed to breach a door and I couldn't, I'm going to start going through drywall. I'm going to find a window to port out. I'm going to find another way in there. But what that does is it buys us time. It buys the initial responders, the first responders, anyone who's going to respond to that incident to neutralize that problem. It buys them time to get there so that we can keep the numbers of casualties as low as possible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, 100%.
Lock the doors.
Lock the doors. 100%. If you're worried about, well, if people are late to church or whatever, that's what we have greeters for. That's why we have ushers. That's why we have people that can be posted in those areas, whether it be a security officer, a safety team member, an off-duty officer that you have a good relationship with, some way of making sure it's locked, but also making sure you can let people in. But then another aspect is a way to respond. We've seen before too, is like, you have locked doors, but they're huge glass doors.
Right.
Well, they just shoot through the glass. Okay, yes, but it takes time. David just said that. It takes time in order to react or prepare for whatever we need to do. That's going to be loud. It's going to be very loud, very violent, and it's going to take time, which can give us a little bit of extra time to react or to, address it appropriately. Another thing is having a way, or not necessarily a way, but having a group or a team of people to respond.
Right.
Some way that if something happens, that it's not just one person going by themselves.
Right.
We will talk a lot more about that, the team concept later, whether it be two-man team tactics or then small team tactics, whatever it may be. But we talk about doing things in groups, right? You can do things solo, but now having two sets of eyes, we can watch each other's back. We can set up triangular, whether it be talking, addressing, or actually having to stop a threat.
Yeah.
Having a triangulation in order to create a more, a more beneficial environment.
Separates that suspect or that problem. It separates their attention to be able to triangulate. We call it contact cover in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot of tactical advantages too, to having at least two people in an approach. We try to never approach alone. Now, will we? Absolutely. If I show up and there's a shooting and I've got one shoe on, I'm going to run in with one shoe on. We're going to do what we can. But I would much prefer to go in with a battle buddy, no matter how minor or how extreme the situation is. The locking of that door buys us time to get that battle buddy. It buys us time to harden up that location, whether it's an exterior door, an interior door. The stats on it specifically say that in a large attended venue, so a high population or a dense populated area, in the first 60 seconds, we're going to lose 12 lives. In the second 60 seconds, we'll lose another 8. And then the third 60 seconds, we'll lose another 8. And if you want to look through stats over the last 10 or 15 years, those stats hold pretty true. Those are from Ed Monk, by the way. The stats on an armed, willing, and trained person in ear or eye shot of the first shot fired almost exclusively keeps the killing in single digits, which is a huge win. Now, I would love to say we can stop all shootings, but we absolutely cannot. That's not realistic. If it's your day, it's your day, and that's where you just need to be at peace with your faith. The Having somebody close by that's willing and armed is absolutely crucial to keep these numbers down, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yep, 100%. That's our main goal, especially when it comes to outside stuff. It's just if we can mitigate it, stop it from going in, identify it, have a plan to address or confront or talk. And again, we're not overbearing, we're not overzealous about it. We're going up and we're having a conversation. Hey, are you new here? Are you welcome? What how are you? What's your name? All the things that what we're doing, but especially when we talk about our security company, there's other aspects that we train so that we can talk and we can say that, but we're looking, we're identifying, we're scanning, we're doing other things that we train for in order to gain more information, more intelligence, so that we can better address or better have a better understanding of what it is we're dealing with. But we do that outside. It's less likely it's less likely that if they do decide that they're trying to do harm, then it's less likely they're going to have those targets in that target-rich environment in a consolidated area that they can do the most damage quickly. If we're outside and we're spread, we're away from it, and there's a couple of us, and we can communicate that so that everybody's aware of it, and then we can address it outside. We're taking that target availability away from that threat, and we're not allowing them into that inner circle where they can cause more harm or damage.
That is a de-escalation technique, is to take away the object of the aggression. And if the object of the aggression is for them to be in a dense populated area before they initiate their attack, being able to confront them before they get to their objective is a de-escalation technique that could prevent the shooting from happening in the first place. But if it doesn't, if what we do is actually launch them into an attack, we're at least in a great position where we have lots of cover, places where we can retreat to, and it's a place where people can get away. They're not locked in a room or locked in a building. They can get behind a car. They can run across the street. They can get away, and it just greatly increases our opportunities to win that encounter.
Right.
So,
because another option, and we're going to close here in a little bit, but another option too, because there's a lot of really good points to this stuff. If you, like, for instance, recently we've had where a guy just stops his car, gets out with a rifle, and just starts shooting. Right. By having those plans or those understandings, the lines of communication, we can actually help mitigate that person from making entry, or we can start addressing them while they're outside, while before they get into a like fish in a barrel type of situation. I hate to use that, but that's if you let somebody with a rifle into your church, into the sanctuary during a Sunday service, I mean, think of the casualties that could happen before that person can be stopped, even with armed personnel. If we're not aware of it, and it just starts happening. But if we have that outside perimeter, we have the lines of communication, we have eyes out there, we have a way to address, we have a plan how to address, and we can stop them from coming inside, we just stopped a major mass incident before it even started.
Right.
So I think for today, I think that'll be enough. I mean,
so.
yeah, I mean, this is only the beginning. It's episode 2, y'all. So stick with us, stay with us. The next episode, I think we're going to move into the internal part of it, maybe just open air, internal environment, and then hopefully just kind of build on that, going from outside in, and how to just on basic church security structure, what we believe, what we teach, but also going a little bit more in depth into what we provide, how we provide it, and the types of stuff that we look for, that we train for, the different scenarios and stuff that we've been involved in, as well as what we want to what kind of knowledge we want to put out there. And again, real quick, like David's company, with Sheepdog Defense Group, that's the security company that we provide the training, the licensing, like you said, turnkey, one-stop shop. We provide all that with our academy, with licensing, with the insurance, with everything that your church needs to have a solid security team in order to help protect your church. And then again, with my company, what we try to do is we try to supplement what is not allowed necessarily by
Right.
The Private Security Bureau through DPS. With my company, we can get into a little bit more of long gun manipulation and stuff. Let's say, disarmament, how to make a rifle safe if you were to take out the bad guy,
Right.
how to, if you need to use that long gun because the bad guy and you don't have a gun, or because the bad guy went down, but there's another bad guy, and now I have a weapon here. How do I use it? Or in reference to, different variations of concealment, conceal and draw, weapons manipulation, the new thing with red dots now
Yeah.
that's been taken off like
Game changer.
wildfire. I can do all of that to help supplement some of the stuff so we can continue the program going, and then we can just continue to add and continue to train. And that's our goal.
Right.
We want you guys to get training. Don't just get an LTC, go through your little test of shooting a paper target. We'll get into later on, we do a lot of reality-based training. We do a lot of force-on-force through simunitions, little paint rounds that we can show you on a different episode, and we'll go through the ins and outs of that and what we do and how we do it. And then we can further give you guys the tools that you need in order to protect yourself, your families, more importantly, your churches and your flocks and your kids. It's the schools, everything involved with what our main mission and goal is.
Again, reach out to us if you have. We're definitely looking for recommendations, suggestions on things that you would like to hear from. We've got a lot of things that we do want to talk about. We'll be doing a lot of these episodes. But if there's something specific that you'd like to hear, I'll put it out there again. David at sheepdogdefensegroup.com. You can send, if you want information about our programs, I'd be happy to call you back on that. Or if you just have things that you want to hear us talk about on this podcast, reach out to us and let us know. And Nick, you can give out yours as well.
I'm also, it's Nick, Nick, at sheepdogdefensegroup.com, or Nick at SD Pack Training Company. SD is in sheepdog, SD Pack, PACK training .com. So it's really, yeah, let me
.org,
there's so many different avenues for that. I don't even know. But again, guys, keep training, keep fighting, keep working. You guys stay safe. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.